The 18th of September 2008, 2:25 a.m., Indianapolis, Indiana. I was coming back home from a late-night run to the grocery store and saw a weird object in the sky in front of my house. It was a triangular-shaped object. I didn't see an actual triangle, but I saw 3 lights that made me think it must have been a triangle. The lights were blue, red and green. It wasn't moving like a plane or a helicopter but sideways. I lost sight of it behind a building.
I was in my mother's backyard with some family members having a barbecue on July 6, 2008. A few cousins and myself were sitting around eating while talking. I was facing the back of my mother's yard when I noticed a orangish-yellow light move out from behind the tops of a tree. It had no shape other than being a light. I wasn't sure if it were some sort of firework. So I watched it for a few seconds. The light moved along the street it was above and seemed to have turned at the intersection. There was no wind to explain its odd movement. After a few shocked seconds, I told my cousins about it. They all sort of laughed about it, but I told them it was still there. They turned and seen it as well. We watched the light travel down the road it turned on until it vanished from sight. We all were talking about it for a few minutes when I noticed a second light appear about the same place as I seen the first. The second light followed the same course as the first. The second light had me stumped, so I walked to the back fence of the yard to try to get a better look. Again, the second shape had no shape other than a light. In shape, I mean no body like a plane or such. Just a bright light. It was daylight out, so it was bright enough to stand out in daylight. I again watched the light travel until it vanished from sight. Due to distance, I would think, since I didn't see it go up or down. Several times I've thought maybe it was those parachutes with the little flares on them you shoot off around the 4th of July. Only things that keep me from believing that is there was no wind and they turned at the intersection at a right angle. I had a second, or third if you count the first as 2, sighting on October 25, 2008. My girlfriend, my daughter, nephew, and I were coming home from a birthday party, around 8 p.m. We had just turned off Holt Road onto Morris Street heading west. We went about a block to a block and a half when I looked out the car window, passenger side window, and noticed a bright reddish-orange light about 100 to 150 feet in the air. I told my girlfriend to look at it. We passed it up, so I only got to see it for a few seconds. If it moved, it did so at a really slow rate of speed. It didn't seem to have moved at all from first seeing it until I lost it to the tree line. My girlfriend dropped me off at home and left to go to a family member's house when she called me and told me there were now 3 of the lights where we seen the first. From the time we last seen the first light until she called me about the 3 lights was about 5 minutes.
The 25th of December 2008, 3:36 p.m. I was driving south on 465 by the airport. Something felt like, look over here. And when I looked to the west and seen a round sphere reflecting rainbow light but just within the circle of the sphere, and there was light cloud movement to the east and the sphere didn't move or change position to the north of the sun, I took pictures. And we kept watching it until we turned on a road to the west and the sphere could still be seen from that angle as well. And we went in the house and you still could view the object. Not sure how much longer it was visible. It has been on my mind ever since then. The pics I took, you can defiantly see the sphere into the sun. And we were even driving 60 miles per hour and you can see the light trailers for the sphere as with the sun in the picture. It was something there that wasn't moving and it looked like to me a shield of some sort reflecting the sun rays. We'll get pictures on here soon.
The 1st of November 2008, 6:15 p.m. Indianapolis, Indiana. There were 6 people total who viewed the aircraft objects. I am unsure who observed the objects initially, but it was me, my wife and son, a couple of neighbor boys and my neighbor directly across the street. We live on a cul-de-sac and were outside being social on a warm September evening. 2 unknown aircraft were hovering for close to 40 minutes at a high altitude without really moving, just sitting in place. I did not have any reference point for distance, but they were almost directly overhead and a little bit difficult to see, so I am assuming they were pretty high in the sky. One was easier to see than the other, as if it were either a smaller craft accompanying the larger craft or at a higher altitude making it appear smaller. The distance made it impossible to make out details, but it had a definite triangle shape. We watched until it became too dark to see any more. It was not like anything any of us had seen before in regard to its behavior, just sitting there. All other aircraft fly by, whereas this just seemed to hover.
The 15th of March 2008, 12 a.m. Indianapolis, Indiana. It was dark out and my son wanted a toy out of the car. I told him, 8 years old, go ahead and run out and get it honey, I'm right here. Still inside, I heard the car door shut and he came running in saying he saw 4 lights in the sky that looked like a UFO. Always being a believer, I still was like, sure honey, let's go look. I stood there in shock trying to come up with another explanation of what I was seeing. I couldn't see details because it was enclosed in a cloud of mist or something, way too low to be a cloud. It was very low, what seemed to be maybe 40 feet, but probably more. I saw 4 big lights shining from within the mist. They were 4 different colors. The shade of color coming through the clouds was blue, pink, green, clear. This object was of considerable size and just hovered silently over my neighbor's house. I began to feel a sense of unknowing fear because my son was still outside with me. I grabbed his arm and pulled him inside, still in a state of, I guess, shock. It was a very strange feeling, and even stranger, I didn't react the way I thought I would if I had seen something like that. I came inside, told my boyfriend to look, but didn't take me seriously or brushed it off. Not a believer. I then just remember sitting on the couch scared and peeking out my side door to see if it was there. I'm guessing it remained for probably another 10 minutes. I am shocked that I never picked up the phone to call my dad, who probably would have drove over to see. I get a weird feeling of just kind of blanking out. Even stranger, I didn't remember to tell anyone for a couple of days, which is very strange for me. My neighbors were retired nuns who had lived there for years. I never asked them about it out of embarrassment, but wish I had. I noticed some injuries that they said was a surgery, but it was odd that they up and moved back to their parish. I wish I would have said something to them because it drives me crazy not knowing now. Don't have any memory of the rest of the night. It's like it escaped my mind until a couple days later when my boyfriend was making fun of what I said I saw, and then I felt really weird, like how could I forget something like that? This is an issue that I have been drawn to my whole life. More of an obsession. Now that I have actually seen one, I can't stop thinking about all the mysteries of this world. I must know the truth. I hope we have answers soon.
The 1st of September 2008, 12 a.m. Indianapolis, Indiana. Attended air show. Captured a 10 warthog during flyby. Image attached was in the air. Nothing at that time was in sight. Photo taken at Mount Comfort in Indianapolis, Indiana.
The 12th of February 2009, 8:10 p.m. I live on the west side of Indianapolis. My neighbor called my attention to the sky south of our building, and there is something in the sky. Not another thing to be seen excepting an occasional airplane. We're near the airport. And this thing seems very bright. And it doesn't move. She said she watched it all the way home from Bargersville, and said it hasn't moved yet. It's in the western sky, just visible above the roof of the building next door. We live in an apartment complex. The buildings are close to each other. I couldn't see anything but a bright light, but with field glasses, the following was visible. The best way I can describe it is that it's a ring of light with little circular appearing bud-like objects on the outer perimeter, with more of them seeming to be on the upper and right side of the ring, and none on the southern half of the circle. At first, the little buds were at the top. Let's say at 11 and 1 o'clock. They now, half an hour later, appear to have stems with buds at the ends. Might this indicate a changing of positions? It's 8:58 p.m. and it's gone now.
The 12th of February 2009, 8:30 a.m. Indianapolis, Indiana. I was letting my dogs out through the sliding door facing south around 8:30 p.m. It was a clear night. I looked at what looked like a very bright star directly above the house behind me. I was thinking to myself, I don't remember seeing a star up there before. Then my kids came over and looked at it. My 5-year-old said, maybe it's a star. My second thought was maybe it's a helicopter. But it was so bright, and it was not moving. I got my camera, just in case. When I looked at this thing through my camera, it seemed to be changing colors. As we kept watching this thing after a half an hour, we noticed it began moving further away east very slowly. I have pictures of the object. It appears to change shapes and colors. After an hour it finally disappeared. I also took a video with my digital camera. I don't know if it was anything, but I figured I would report it in case someone else saw something. The pictures I submitted are difficult to see. The only way you can see the colors and shapes is if you zoom into the pictures. I used a Sony Cybershot 8.1 megapixels. I was on my back deck facing south, with clear view of the sky. The first is the video. I tried to keep as steady as I could. Any movement is my hand, not the object. The second is just a picture of the object. When I zoomed to this one, I saw a face. Kind of like when you look at the moon. It was pretty cool. In the third picture an airplane passed by. The plane is the long shape, and the object is round and bright. I have more pics if needed. Thanks.